Hi, everyone, and welcome to After Dark, a BookTrib and Merrill Media production. Today, we're super thrilled to have New York Times and USA bestselling author Tessa Bailey with us. She's the author of a number of series, including Made in Jersey, Line of Duty, Broken Beautiful, Crossing the Line, as well as a number of standalones. And out today, we're thrilled to have her because today is pub day for the 1001 Dark Nights novella, Rough Rhythm. Um, Welcome, Tessa. Thank you so much for joining us. Congrats on Pub Day. I hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I'm having a great
Absolutely.
day.
Good,
Great to, really excited to be here
good. Well, we're happy to have
in my
you.
office.
Yes. So the Rough Rhythm is part of the Made in Jersey series. What is the crux kind of the story of this novella?
Well, we kind of met James. Sorry, I'm a little sick to everybody. I don't usually sound this manly, but so we met James and Lita in Crashed Out,
Okay.
and they're Lita is the drummer of a band called Old News, and James is the manager of that band. And they have a really contentious relationship in Crashed Out. And so now we're kind of going back in Rough Rhythm and finding out how they met and like where that vitriol comes from and kind of like what drives them. And then we flash forward to the present and see how they work it out. And it's there's a lot of fireworks. It's really
Mm,
sexy. Um, and I think it's pretty edgy compared to what I've done before. So I'm really excited about
that's awesome. So what kind of inspired the story, or did the characters themselves inspire it? How'd you kind of come up with this storyline?
Yeah, it's weird. It seems like most of my books are kind of they come to me with one scene, and like I have that one scene to go on, and then I
Okay.
build the book around it.
Cool.
And I just had this story or this image of this girl, this homeless girl in like a swanky Los Angeles lounge, and hungry and not knowing where to go, and then this man sees her and decides to help her, but he's going through something of his own, and they kind of clash, and that night spurs like 4 years of intense guilt on his
Mm,
part. But I think, yeah, that original scene, that prologue of the book is kind of where it started and what spawned the whole thing. And it was mostly Lita, the heroine, who inspired it.
very
I
interesting.
wanted to tell her story, so
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. How did you kind of get involved with 1001 Dark Nights? Did they come to you? Was it something you've been kind of checking out for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a fan of 1001 Dark Nights. I always have. I've been since the beginning. They put out such
Absolutely.
quality, amazing novellas from these amazing authors.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough that Liz Barry, the wonderful woman behind, one of the wonderful women behind 1001 Dark Nights, just happened to pick up one of my books and enjoy it. So that was really lucky and for me. And she did approach me, and I was like, please take me. I want to do it. So yeah, it was like a stroke of luck, which is pretty much how my whole career can be described. A stroke of luck.
Hey, we all need a little luck in our lives.
Yes, we do.
So, have you been in contact with any of the other authors? Did you reach out to any maybe to get some advice or just chit chat with anything like that?
Well, like I'm lucky enough that we see each other at signings,
Right.
and just kind of I've learned a lot just from watching these women, these just their professionalism, and watch how they, you know, how to how they connect with readers and how they
Yeah.
kind of hold themselves and the way they talk about their work and stuff. And I've just learned from watching them almost. So yeah, I reached out to them, but mostly just as friends, and I just kind of learning by their example. So
That's amazing.
yeah, I guess you could say
Yeah,
I did.
it's just such a great group and collaboration. And after speaking to so many authors involved, it just seems like a really excellent thing to be a part of in community.
Exactly. It is. It feels like a family, you know?
Yeah,
And that's a lot. That's down to the Pied Piper, Liz Berry. She kind of rallies the troops and like, makes us feel welcome. So I
absolutely.
couldn't be happier to be part of it.
That's awesome. So I want to go back a little bit in your timeline. Can you tell us kind of when it was you decided, like, I'm going to be an author, this is my calling, or this is what I want to do? How did that all come about for you?
Well, I wrote a couple of books in my early 20s that I kind of didn't know what I was doing. That there was no like genre, and the word count was all over the place, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And
Okay.
so, 8 years passed, and
Right.
I had a child, and then Hurricane Sandy happened, and my husband was out of work for 6 weeks, and I had been home with the baby for a year. And I was like, I just need an outlet for myself. I need to do something for me. And he's wonderful. So he, basically took over while I just like locked myself in a room and wrote my first book, which is Protecting What's my first published book, which is Protecting What's His. And I think a lot of that stemmed from just like fear, fear of not having something for my daughter to be proud of me about. I wanted to, I had to figure out pretty quickly what I was good at because, I have this daughter now that's going to look up to me. And that's really what spurred me into that room and locking the door because I was like, I need to do something that she could be proud of.
Wow.
So I wrote about blowjobs.
Well, like
As
every
you
woman
do.
does.
I mean, not just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't know that part of it yet, but she knows mommy's an author, and so she's proud of me. So that's where it
Awesome.
comes from mostly.
That's a really, if there's anything that's going to make you become an author, then that's a really great story. Um,
Yes.
how did you, that first book, what was your experience in publishing? How did you go about publishing it and what ultimately made you pick that one to just say, that's it, I'm doing it?
Well, like I said before, I did those two books like way back in my early 20s. Well, not way, way back. Just, like 8 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to submit them. I didn't know like that I should be following these editors on social media and that I should be looking for what they want for submissions and then it was actually I still didn't know when I submitted Protecting What's His. I just kind
Mhm.
of did like an online submission form
Oh,
to Entangled and another stroke of luck, my editor picked it out of the slush pile and brought it home for the weekend. And this was like 10 days after I submitted it.
wow.
And she called me and was like, let's talk. Like,
Yeah.
who else has seen this? Because I want it. And I was like, you do? And it was pretty much a mess. Like, we had to really edit it down and, you know, um, it was work,
Yeah.
but I learned like so much. And I can definitely say that I got really lucky again because I could have easily gotten just shuffled into that pile a little
Right.
bit further, and she never would have seen it. So, um, yeah, it was a really whirlwind process that I'm grateful for.
So interesting. Was this the area you always wanted to be in, the new adult, contemporary, erotica? Is that what you knew you were going to write when you started?
I mean, when I started reading romance, I read historicals,
Okay.
and that was like my jam. Like I loved historicals and sea captains and like lairds and Scottish lairds, and so I probably had aspirations to write that at one point. Um, and then I guess, just falling in love with contemporary a couple of
Yeah,
years ago, like everybody else has been doing,
absolutely.
I wanted to write more modern. So, um, yeah, who knows? Someday, maybe I'll write, about lasses and lairds. But for now, it's just, yeah, I do like writing about kind of modern day romance.
Yeah. Are there specific things to know for anyone who's just starting or just maybe wants some advice? Are there certain rules for writing the typical contemporary novel or erotica, things to start with or just start at, anything that you knew?
Anything that I knew about
Anything that
writing
you,
erotica?
yeah, like anything that you knew getting started or that you think could help someone who's just getting started that's
An
like, okay, well, what's the
aspiring
baseline?
author?
Yeah,
I tell you what, until I started writing, like my mom wasn't looking over my shoulder, and that like I just kind of stopped worrying about who was going to judge it.
mm,
I started writing for me and what turns me on and what I like.
right.
And when that happens, someone else is going to like it too, you know? So yeah, I mean, I can remember some of those lines I wrote in my first book and just being like, I got to delete this. And then going, well, why? Because if you never
Yeah,
take a risk, you know, no guts, no glory. So,
absolutely.
yeah, my advice, especially with writing erotica, is write for yourself, write what turns you on. Someone else is gonna like it. Someone else is gonna really like it.
Definitely. Definitely. So, for those who kind of haven't written a series, and I'm not sure if this is true for you, but can you talk a little bit about, is it very like all encompassing? Are you just kind of stuck in that frame of mind while you're writing that series? Are those the only character voices that kind of get through?
Yes, I mean, like for me, because I'm jumping around to 3 different series
Right.
at one time sometimes. Uh, I can tell you that there's always one that's calling to you a little more than the rest.
Yeah.
And right now, like the Made in Jersey series, just kind of like this, because I was inspired by My Cousin Vinny. I was watching My Cousin Vinny one day on like TNT, and I was like, God, I really want to just write about these people that have to put on a tie or a jumpsuit
Right.
every day and have to go answer to a boss because like that's what we all have to do. It's not all, you know, we don't all have a ton of money stashed away and like
Right.
life is hard and life is shitty sometimes. So that really called to me, and I think that's why I love this series so much. And the heroines just happen to be like the strongest heroines I've ever written, I'd
Mm,
say, in this series. Like Lita in Rough Rhythm, I mean, she has so much strength, and like I just envy it. And I would say that this book Rough Rhythm really, really like dug its nails in, and I wrote it way too early. I wrote it like probably almost a year ago
yeah.
and sent it to Liz, and Liz was like, "This is pretty early." And I was like, I just couldn't stop writing it. I had to
Yeah.
get it out there. So, yeah, they do pull you in different directions, though. Someone's talking to you and wants their story,
Right.
or it's just really clear in your head at one point, and even though you should be writing something else, you have to get those thoughts on paper. So you do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So it's probably not a secret for most people who are listening that I'm a huge kind of new adult contemporary novel fan and reader. So I want to talk a little bit about your Crossing the Line series because it's so good and it's so fun. Boiling
Oh,
Point was
thanks.
released in January, which is very exciting. It's the third in the series. So for those who kind of haven't read it or aren't familiar with it, can you give a quick rundown of the story and kind of what's happening with Austin and Polly in book three?
Sure. Boiling Point is, well, first of all, Crossing the Line series is basically criminals that are put on an undercover squad with the Chicago PD. And Austin Shaw is like an international con, a master of disguise. So he
Right.
can basically disappear into any situation and just act a part. And then he's fallen for a hacker who is basically out to settle a score for her father's actually, and they were wronged by a con man. So she hates him right off the
Of
bat,
course.
and he finds a way to like balance that power out by giving her the reins in the bedroom.
Mm.
And that's the first time I ever wrote something where the man kind of relinquished that control in bed, and like my family's right outside. It's great. They're like they can hear everything.
What are you talking
But
about?
yeah, that was really a first for me, and it really worked out. I thought it worked out really great, and Austin was such a complex character that
Right.
I was just like, he's just 10 steps ahead of everybody,
So,
which is hard because then I had to be 10 steps ahead of
of
everybody,
course, of
so
course.
that was a challenge. But I love that. Yeah, I love that series. Thanks for reading it.
Absolutely. So yeah, boiling point, go out, grab it immediately. Um,
Yes.
what about you? Do you have series waiting to be written? Do you have new ones kind of in the horizon? Or maybe just like a list of characters and you have no idea where they're going yet? Is that any, do you keep like maybe a cork board somewhere?
Well, there's always like a Rolodex in the back of my head
Right.
that's always spinning around. Um, I have a new series starting in May with a book called Too Hot to Handle, and that's about four estranged siblings driving across country together in a suburban, and they each fall in love at a different stop along the way.
I
And
love that.
that series, as like going back to what you said before, is really close to my heart because they're all named after my grandmother's siblings.
Oh my God, that's
And I actually
awesome.
can't even talk about it without crying, so just move on.
Okay,
It's
well look
really
out for
it's
that.
that series. It's really close to my heart. And then in 2017, late 2017, I'm doing a new adult police academy series.
Ooh.
So that'll be up your alley. Yeah. And it's the same. And this will be with Avon, who did the Broken Beautiful series. So it's gonna be fun. It's
Nice.
gonna be new and hopefully edgy. So I'm excited for everything that's coming up.
That's awesome. Me too. So stay tuned, basically, and just keep reading everything you're writing.
Stay
How
tuned.
how do you deal, to maybe a more serious note, how do you deal with like reader criticism or fans that are on social media or even sites like Goodreads or Amazon, and all of those? Do you kind of take it, use it as critique? Does any of it actually get to you, or do you let it get to you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I just kind of have to tell myself that, not everything is for everybody.
Right.
And, um, I move on. I think I have like a really great reader base that just kind of encourages me constantly, and that kind of keeps me from, letting it affect me too much
Yeah.
if there's anything negative written. There are some reviewers who I just have so much respect for that I do read those reviews, and if they're in any way negative, I mean, like I take that into consideration because I trust them, and I've been taking book recs
Yeah.
from them since before I was ever a writer. So, um, yeah, but most of the time I just let it roll off. You have to just keep going,
Right.
and anytime you pay too much attention to criticism, it'll start affecting your work. So
Absolutely.
that's bad because you never want to be writing for one person,
Right, right.
instead of everybody else.
Definitely.
But I have respect for all the people that leave reviews, and it's a great way for readers to connect with each other. So
Absolutely.
um, you know, yeah.
So I've recently become a big fan of Audible, and I noticed that only a few of your books are on Audible, and I was curious, and I don't know if you can even answer this question, but for those who don't know or are wondering how it works, like myself, what's that process like for prepping your books for listening and not reading? Do you have any say over the narrator or when it happens or what book it
The ones
happens
on
for?
Audible, I had some say in, yeah.
Yeah.
The, the bulk of them are on like Tantor Audio, I think,
Okay.
and then Unfixable and Mating the Maid of Honor were bought by Audible. And I got emails from the narrators that asked for my input. They were like,
Oh.
tell me about the character and like how would you like them to speak? Do they have accents? Like,
Hmm.
are they sarcastic? And like that was really fun to be a part of that. And if you listen to Unfixable and Mating the Maid of Honor, those books they kill it. Like they're so good. Like Unfixable, the narrator had to do an Irish accent like half the book.
Hmm.
It was just, I mean, I don't have any say in who buys
I
it,
see.
but it was really cool to be involved in that process because
Very,
I've never been involved in it before.
yeah.
So
And I
it
think
was cool.
as the reader, you kind of automatically have that voice in your head. So you wonder, like, is this what the author was envisioning? Is this what they wanted? Were they supposed to have an accent?
I think, some authors, maybe uh, authors with a little more pull than me.
Right.
Probably have a lot more input, but I don't usually. It's usually out of my hands, but
Interesting.
you know, yeah, they do a great job. I didn't particularly have a really good experience though with Audible.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, you can head over to tessabailey.com and click on her bio. You can see where you can meet up with her, where she's going to be next, signings and all of that. You told us some of the series to look out for coming up. What about any new standalones or anything coming out in the next, month or two that everyone should look out for?
Well, the next Made in Jersey book comes out, I think, in less than a month. Thrown Down. So yeah, let me see. Comes out on April 4th. So we're actually less. It's like three and
Yeah.
a half weeks from
Yeah.
today. But Rough Rhythm is out right now, and yeah, the new Romancing the Clarkson series kicks off in May. So I'm like super pumped about that. It's gonna
Awesome.
be
That's
great.
so exciting. So I want to get the viewers right now involved a little bit. I'm going to take a few questions. And the first one is from Jocelyn. She wants to know if you could be any character from any book, who would it be and why?
Well, what do you think? I was talking this week about Cressley Cole's Immortals After
Ah,
Dark series.
yes.
It's kind of amazing. And somebody's saying Ruby, which is my pool player. Well, Jillian's saying Ruby, who's actually the pool shark heroine in my Line of Duty series, and she likes to call me Ruby because I'm actually decent at pool. So yeah, that's a good choice, Ruby. Um, I was thinking in terms of the Immortals After Dark series, like it would be cool to be Nyx, the Ever Knowing,
Ah,
because then you would like just be able to, I'd like to actually be in her head for just like 30 seconds just to hear what
right.
she's hearing and seeing, because she knows exactly what's going to happen and all the patterns that are falling into place. And she knows the end of the series too. Like, I
Oh.
want to know the end of the series. So probably Nyx, the Ever Knowing from the Immortals After Dark series for
Ooh,
sure.
interesting.
And Ruby.
Do you find, this question is from Kate, do you find certain types of scenes more difficult to write than others?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't say I'm an emotional person. I tend to internalize things. So when it comes to, um, the characters having to kind of finally let those walls down and tell each
Yeah.
other their biggest insecurities, and that's really hard for me to write because you never like I don't have conversations like that usually in my everyday life, and
Mm.
so I always find it a little difficult, and I usually come back to it.
Oh, interesting.
The easiest scenes for me to write are like the love scenes and the flirting scenes and the kind of like the first meetings and stuff. I love it. But yeah, those kind of like heavy, dark, emotional scenes,
Yeah.
I tend to shy away from them and like be like, oh, I'll just come back to that after lunch, and then I never come back. So yeah, definitely just like the dark moments are the hardest for me.
Interesting. Okay. What about, do you have, oh, actually, Kate has this question too. Do you have a favorite rom-com or a rom-dram that you like to watch? Romance movie? It's a tough question.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the obvious answer is Love Actually. Like everybody loves that movie.
Right.
Most recently, I saw a movie called Obvious Child.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if anybody's seen that, but it's kind of about these characters that have a one night stand together, and she gets pregnant,
Mm,
and they like don't even know each other, but they
right.
like come together and slowly work it out. And
Oh,
I just
wow.
it was a good movie, and it was experimental, and I really enjoyed that. Ooh, what else? Oh my gosh, Sleepless in Seattle. I could watch that probably like 100
Classic.
times in a row. My Girl, I know that that's not really a love story, but it's like two kids, and I found that like to be
It's
like
good.
almost a sweet
Yeah.
coming of age story. Yeah, I could probably go on and on, but Sleepless in Seattle is high on the list.
Okay. Do you find yourself, Callie wants to know, do you kind of find yourself relating to your characters and how so or how much?
Well, I think you do have to find a way to relate to every character a little bit, just because if you can't relate to them, then they're not going to be sympathetic to the readers.
Right.
So at the very least, and like I'm not going to relate to a drummer in a rock band, like because I'm not like I have no experience with that, but I can find a way to understand her, and that's the most important thing, I think, when you're writing a character, is just knowing where they're coming from and what
Absolutely.
their weaknesses are, and yeah, just knowing their insecurities, and everybody's insecure, so, at least in my opinion. So
Absolutely.
um, that's important. Just kind of being able to relate to them on that, like that level.
Yeah, definitely. So I find this interesting.
Questions.
Christy just asked us, will Rough Rhythm be available at Barnes and Nobles for Nook? And I think that this is an interesting question because I'm hearing rumblings about Barnes and Noble and Nook and what's going on with their digital content. Are you aware, or do you already know the book's going to be available?
I know that there's something going on with Barnes and Noble, like they're giving the readers a certain amount of time to get their content
Right,
loaded, and then that's it. They're not going to do any more. I think that that's
right.
the story. But I think, and probably whoever's listening, maybe Jill or Liz can confirm. I think that Rough Rhythm will only be available on Amazon for like 90 days, and then it'll go to the other outlets like iTunes and
Okay,
Barnes and Noble, which I'm not sure if it'll be in time for that, but
right.
for now, it's only on Amazon, so you basically have to download that Kindle app and,
Yes,
and get it that way. Yeah,
yes. Um,
yeah.
yes,
Liz,
90
it'll be up at
days.
all retailers in 90 days.
Great. And
Thanks, Christy.
for those of you that aren't aware and you do have Nooks, I don't know if you've heard of this yet, but maybe do a little internet research, find out what's going on with Barnes& and Noble because they are changing all of that around. So that's been a development the past couple of days. You might want to look into that for if you're a Nook owner. Um,
Definitely.
yeah. What favorite, Callie wants to know, what favorite TV show currently on air do you absolutely love?
House of Cards.
Oh, good one.
I'm like obsessed with House of Cards right now, and they just put it up on Netflix. So
Yes.
like I think everybody in the world is like going through and like watching every 40-minute nugget
Yeah.
of perfection, like back to back. Like Making a Murderer, obviously. Like I really love true crime shows. Like I will watch like Dateline NBC from like 2003, like, and I'll
Right.
pretend like it's like happening now.
Absolutely.
I really do just love true crime, so I can watch that. I can just watch that all day long at Court TV and
Definitely.
um, Homicide Hunter and stuff like that.
That's
Yeah, I really watch depressing stuff.
so I know we touched on this a little
Oh,
bit.
oh, Outsiders. You
Oh,
guys gotta check out the show Outsiders.
yes.
Have you heard of it?
Yes, I can't
It's
wait
so weird.
because, well, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard of it because I was obsessed with Sons of Anarchy. So I have to watch because of Ryan
And
Hurst.
Obi from Sons of
Yeah,
Anarchy is in it, and
exactly.
it's like these mountain people in like rural Kentucky, is I think it's Kentucky, and they're like what you would, I mean, like, this is, I don't know if this is like a bad thing to call them, but like they're like hill people, like they live in the hill
Absolutely.
and on the hill, and like they survive off the land, and
Right.
now like the oil company's coming in trying to kick them off
Threaten
and
them,
drill.
yeah, and want their land.
Like it's so out there. There's like pit fights and stuff, and like they have their own like political like council set up. Anyways, Outsiders, you have to check it out.
Yes.
Opie from Sons of Anarchy is in
If you
it,
are an Opie
and he's
fan
wearing
and
like
you
a
bawled
belt.
your eyes out when that whole situation happened, go watch The Outsiders because I'm still a mess.
Yes, he's still alive.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Carrie is asking, and we kind of touched on this earlier in the talk, but in case you have other ones that you're thinking of, what other genres would you like to write?
Well, Carrie writes such great like paranormal stuff, like Shifter, Heroes, and I do, like, my guys do tend to be, or they're wolves, I mean, but like my guys do tend to be pretty animalistic,
Hmm.
and so I did have a couple of readers approach me in the last couple of months and say like, you should try paranormal, and I don't know, like I feel like I would be so nervous about creating that world, like a new world with like a set of rules.
Hmm.
Like, I just feel like I don't know. I guess you never know if you can pull it off till you try it, but
Right.
I mean, maybe someday. I like that. I like the idea of somebody having
Do you read
like a
paranormal? Do
superpower.
you read like a lot of paranormal?
I almost read exclusively paranormal when I'm not
Oh,
writing. Like
okay.
I read a lot of Cressley Cole, a lot of Karen Marie Moning.
Yep.
It's just something that pulls me in. I really love it.
Yeah.
I like kind of escaping through it. So, and
Okay.
Jennifer Armentrout,
Yes. Oh,
love
love
it.
her. Okay. Well, go for it.
Carrie and
Why not,
Ryan.
right? Go ahead, try it. Do it. I'm sure you'll be amazing.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
We have time for one last question. So, what or maybe who, Jocelyn would like to know, are your biggest influences as a writer?
Huh. Well, I think it's just my imagination, you know? That's kind of a boring answer, but it's literally just my motivator. It's just it gets pent up if I don't let it out there.
Right.
It just gets clogged up. So my imagination and like a healthy dose of fear, like I said before, of just, you know, not making the most of this opportunity that I've been given.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think I'm probably influenced a lot by music too. I listen to a lot
Mhm.
of alternative music that I think I actually like threw out an entire book outline about 3 months ago because I heard like this one song on the radio, and the line was she thinks she missed the train to Mars. She's out back counting stars, and like I just for some reason that one lyric I like threw out my whole outline and I rewrote the whole thing
Oh
because
my
I just had
God.
this better idea. So it could be anything, you know. It could be
Wow.
like a weird show about pill people, or
Yeah.
it could be music. But mostly, yeah, it's mostly just imagination. I think most writers would say the same thing, where they just don't need any help. Like it just,
Right.
you
It
know,
comes.
it's like a fucking circus up there.
Hey, it happens, right? That's how the best stuff comes out,
Yeah,
though.
I hope so.
Well, Tessa, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we have come to the end. Happy Pub Day again, and thank you for being with us. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for joining and asking the questions. We love that. And you have a great rest of your day, Tessa.
Thank you so much for having me, and that went so fast. And I
I
see all
know.
the people talking on the side, and I want to respond, so I'm gonna do that now. But because I couldn't do it and talk at the same time, I'm
Fair.
not a multitasker. So thanks everybody.
Thanks,
I'll
everyone.
respond now.
All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you soon. Bye.